Alright, so here we are on the draw. This hand is fine. We're going to keep it. Got some... We're probably going to want to play our hanger back on turn 2. We have a planeswalker. Pretty typical green-white hand. No actual dual lands, which is pretty interesting. So if we draw something like Nissa, we would be unable to cast it given the lands we have in hand, but Sylvan Advocate isn't a bad draw. We have the option now of what we want to do. I actually think there's a couple different lines we can take here. Playing the Advocate or playing the Hangerback are the two different options here. I think I'm going to go with the Hangerback. Or actually, sorry, the Sylvan Advocate. Next turn, we can play Oath plus Hangerback if we want to. Otherwise, I was leaning more towards the Hangerback. It's pretty close. And unfortunately, it looks like our opponent is playing a Dragon's deck, which we didn't know about. Or at least a deck with Draconic Roar in it. So here I like going ahead and playing Oath. And okay, so we don't have a choice. We're just going to grab Sylvan Advocate here. And now we're going to play the Hangerback for 1. There aren't that many removal spells in the format that kill the Sylvan Advocate. So it looks like Evolving Wilds was revealed off the Sin Prodder, so of course we're gonna mill that one. But Sin Prodder is actually quite good against the deck we're playing, green-white tokens. It looks like our opponent's got all the removal anyways, so our Hangerback's gonna bite the dust. I can't say I'm too unhappy about Fiery Impulse trading with the Hangerback, but we don't know what's in our opponent's hand. We've got a bunch of Gideons now in hand, so we just got to start running them out there. I think we just want to 0 Gideon and not attack with our Thopter in the hopes we'll be able to block the Sin Prodder. But it's pretty likely our opponent's sitting on more removal. Yeah, okay. Still, if we're able to keep the Gideon in play, we should be fine. Luckily, our opponent hasn't revealed any spells. If our opponent reveals any spells and we choose to mill them, the damage can then be redirected to Gideon. And yeah, it looks like this attack with Sin Prodder is just going to Gideon, which makes sense. Alright, Forest isn't a bad draw, so we can 0 Gideon. And then we have a choice, but I think what we want to do here is actually just play a face-down Den Protector. And we could play the Advocate. I like waiting on it, though. Our opponent could still have more removal. So we're just going to pass here. And there is a Draconic Roar on the Morph. So now we have a choice between Sylvan Advocate and Hangerback, which is a pretty close choice. I think we just want the Advocate, though. We're almost at 6 lands. And paying 2 for an Advocate is a lot less than dumping all of our mana into a big Hangerback, but the decision is pretty close. So, yep, our opponent is continually revealing lands. Now, if our opponent has a removal spell here, or even just animates Needle Spires, our Gideon would would be in jeopardy, but okay, yeah. So it is going to be a removal spell, Declaration in Stone. So Gideon dying isn't the worst here, but the Jace is actually a pretty big problem for us potentially. We actually want to draw a land here so we can play Gideon and a Sylvan Advocate. So we did. Now we have to be worried about having too much of any one creature, because we know that Declaration is a card our opponent has access to in the graveyard to flash back with Jace. But we're just going to continue with the game plan of hoping to be able to block this Sin Prodder at some point. As soon as we get to block the Sin Prodder, our chances of winning are going to go up. Alright, so it looks like our opponent has revealed a Radiant Flames. That is a pretty interesting one. I don't think we actually mind our opponent having it too much. Alright, we're just gonna let our opponent have that Radiant Flames. Our opponent can Radiant Flames for 1 to take out the Thopter. And it looks like the play is just going to be discarding the Radiant Flames with the Jace loot, so that makes sense. We're just kind of trying to keep our Gideon in play. Our opponent does have 3 cards in hand, though. So we'll see what happens. This is going to be an interesting turn. So it looks like our opponent is just going to attack our Gideon. So we have a couple different blocking scenarios here. One is to simply block with the Advocate and a token. And I think I like this option the most. Blocking with Sylvan Advocate and blocking with the Night Ally. The only issue with it is it leaves ourselves open to getting Radiant Flames, but I think that's fine. Like, we're fine with losing our board here in terms of creatures because we would still have Gideon. So blocking like this should ensure that the Sin Prodder is going to die, which is our #1 priority. So if our opponent's ordering the Advocate first, it could mean that the plan is to just Radiant Flames here, which we already are prepared for. And we have Gideon, which can just attack this Jace as well. So, yep, that's going to be the play. So, on our turn, I think we just want to plus Gideon and attack Jace down to 1 and probably play the Sylvan Advocate. Alright, so the draw was Fortified Village, actually. So, I think we still want to attack the Jace. Our opponent has the option of chump blocking with this Dragon Master Outcast. And I would actually well, it'll be interesting to see if that's what they want to do. Yep, it looks like that is going to be the play, just a chump block. So we can either play the Advocate here. I don't like playing the other Gideon, but we could also just hold up the ability to make a token with Westvale Abbey. And that's pretty appealing too. But yeah, let's just play the Advocate. It's just a big dude here on this board. So our opponent could flash something back, like say Declaration in Stone to get rid of our Sylvan Advocate. But if that happens, the Jace is going to hit the bin next turn. And it looks like that's the play, just flashing back the declaration. So that's fine. We're going to get a clue, and we're going to be able to get rid of the Jace. So let's just pop the clue now. And there's an Avacyn. That's a good draw for us. So go ahead and tick Gideon up again. And attack Jace. Now, what's interesting is our opponent may actually decide to animate a Needle Spires and attack us, not knowing that we have Avacyn in hand. We'll see if that actually happens. It looks like the answer is no. So I think we still just want to go ahead and cast the Avacyn. We also have Dramoka's command to prevent damage if we want to. The worst case scenario is our opponent having something like Ojutai's command this turn. Hopefully that's not the case, but we'll see. Alright, they do have Ojutai's command. And the Dragon Master Outcast is going to come back. So that's a little bit annoying. But we do have Dramoka's command, which should be able to take care of this Dragon Master Outcast. That's one of the advantages of playing a Jeskai deck like this, is we don't have any idea exactly what's in our opponent's deck. But the green-white tokens deck, even running that Archangel into Dramoka's command, we're still pretty far ahead in the game. So, yep. Let's just go ahead and take care of the Dragon Master Outcast now, even though it's not... Our opponent doesn't have 6 lands yet. It's still a pretty big threat. And yeah, I think we can just go ahead and make a knight. Next turn, there is going to be an option. We may just want to go ahead and make a Gideon emblem. And it looks like our opponent does actually have dragons in their deck. There's Thunderbreak Regent. So if we plus Gideon, we can just swing for 10. So I think that's the play here. And it's pretty unlikely our opponent's going to block. So we still have our backup Gideon in hand that we've had pretty much the entire game. If our opponent swings on our Gideon, it would still only go down to 3. So looks like it's just going to be another Thunderbreak Regent. And okay. So Gideon is going down to 3, but we have some pretty good attacks coming up on our next turn, and we're going to get to make a human cleric token. And we actually just drew Chandra, which is a 1-of in the deck. So we are just going to go ahead and cast this Chandra, and that should be the game here. Yep, that's going to be the game. Alright, so let's talk about sideboarding against Jeskai Dragons. So, a couple different cards we can consider bringing in. We are playing against a control deck. So, first of all, Clipwings is very good against any deck with dragons, because we don't have to target our opponent's Thunderbreak Regent, we just make them sacrifice the dragon. We don't really want Tragic Arrogance. We didn't see too many Planeswalkers outside of Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Our opponent also doesn't have that many creatures in their deck. So we don't have to do too much. I like having a third Dem Protector to just grind out our opponent. Planner Outburst could be an option just because it does sweep away dragons, but I also like Stasis Snare a reasonable amount. Silk Wrap is pretty good. So we've got these removal spells which can disrupt, say, Jace's, and they can also disrupt cards like the Sin Prodder, which we saw. Since we're on the draw, we can board out these Lampolt Pacifists. Hangerback seems probably like our best 2-drop in the matchup. One of our best 2-drops. So we may just want to board in Hangerbacks and board in Evolutionary Leap. And we can probably shave on Dramoka's Command. Even though our opponent does have Burn, it's pretty hard to actually successfully command away stuff of our opponents. This is a matchup where we can also consider shaving on Planeswalkers, because if our opponent plays something like a Thunderbreak Regent or a Sin Prodder, we just want to be able to kill it. So I think shaving one of each Planeswalker is fine, although we may want to shave an Avacyn, so just because we know about Ojutai's Command. Although Avacyn is good against our opponent's Planeswalkers. Or sorry, against our opponent's Dragons. But I think on the draw, this is a fine configuration. So yeah, we've got an interesting board plan. I haven't played too much against Jeskai Dragons. It's not that popular right now. It is a control deck, but it's also got some aggressive elements, some creatures which we have to be concerned about. So we need some removal in our deck. We have Hangerback, we have Evo Leap. So we've got a nice late game package already in hand. So, got a few different options here. The Nissa is the card which we can cast the soonest. Chandra is a ways off. So I think we just want to take the Nissa. So here we once again have that option of Sylvan Advocate or Hangerback. I think we want to once again go with the Advocate early. We're probably going to want to play Nissa on turn 3 depending on what our opponent does. The Advocate's going to hit for more damage. And we can save the Hangerback once we have Evo Leap in play. And it looks like there is the Sin Prodder, which is a little bit annoying. So I think we still want to play Nissa this turn, but we don't have any removal in hand, which is frustrating. And it could end up costing us because we're unable to get rid of the Sin Prodder right now. That being said, we actually boarded in additional removal spells. So it looks like another Sin Prodder is what's getting revealed off of this initial Sin Prodder. So the question is, do we want to let our opponent have another Sin Prodder? If we do, then we don't take the damage, But if we don't, then the damage can be redirected towards Nissa. So, yeah, it's a pretty close decision here. I still think that a second Sim Prodder could just be game over. Our opponent could cast it this turn, and we'd be in a pretty rough spot. So we're just going to mill it. That means that our opponent can then redirect the damage to Nissa, and Nissa could very easily die this turn. If our opponent just simply attacks... Okay, so this was good. Our opponent has just passed. Clip Wings was the draw for the turn. So we may just want to play Oath to kick things off to try to find a land. So let's do that. And we did find a land. It's going to be a Plains here. And since it is a Plains, it's a little bit awkward since we kind of want to cast Evolutionary Leap this turn. But alternatively, we can also play Hangerback Walker or a face-down Den Protector. Our opponent could have Ojutai's Command at the ready here, which we should respect. So it's pretty close here in terms of what we want to do. We can also actually attack with our Sylvan Advocate. I kind of like doing that. So yeah, we're going to get in there with the Advocate. Wouldn't expect a block. So yeah, our opponent's just going to take the damage here. And then the question becomes, which of these cards do we want to play? I think it's still just the Evolutionary Leap. We're going to respect the possibility of Dramoka's Command. And it's pretty unlikely our opponent has removal in hand. So, okay, good. Our opponent revealed a land this time off Sin Prodder. So, now we have Evo Leap. Our opponent really wants to have a removal spell to get rid of some of our creatures here. But it looks like they do not have a removal spell, which is good news. Ojutai's command mana is something our opponent's still representing. So we're going to continue our attacks with the Sylvan Advocate. And then the question becomes, how much do we care about Ojutai's Command? I think we can go ahead and play a Hangerback for 1 here. Pretty reasonably. But, yeah, we can play Hangerback for 1. I think that's fine. Our opponent may cast Ojutai's Command on it. Pretty likely that this gets commanded, but then we can play our second one if we want to. Okay, so it is Ojutai's Command, which is what we thought. So let's go ahead and make another plant here. And then play another Hangerback for 1. We still have a green up. And it looks like Negate is the card our opponent's revealing. Negate is pretty good. So I don't think we want to let our opponent have it. It is going to mean our Nissa drops down to 1. But, yeah. We'll just mill it. And it actually looks like our opponent did not redirect the damage to Nissa, which is pretty interesting. I wonder why that would be the case. So now if our opponent goes for something like Declaration of Stone on a plant, we can in response sacrifice it. In fact, no matter what our opponent does, we're probably going to want to sacrifice a plant. Just to go ahead and get this Evo Leap going and get our hand flush with high power creatures. Powerful threats, that is. So we'll see if our opponent finally wants to make an attack with the Sin Prodder. And it looks like the answer is yes. Which is pretty interesting. I don't think we want to block with our Hangerback, because our opponent could have Radiant Flames. So let's just go ahead and block with Sylvan Advocate and a plant. If our opponent uses a removal spell, that's perfectly fine. So, yep, it is going to be Fiery Impulse on the Advocate. So we're just going to go ahead and Evo Leap. So we got another Advocate, so can't complain about that. Our opponent had to use a removal spell, and our Planeswalker is still in play. Okay, and there's going to be another removal spell. It looks like our opponent did not have a dragon to reveal either. If our opponent had a dragon to reveal with the Roar, the damage could have been redirected to Nissa. So we're still in a pretty good spot. We have the option of minusing Nissa if we want to. I don't know that we actually do want to, though. We also have a choice in terms of which creature we want to play. And I think we want to actually get this Den Protector in play right now. And yeah, it seems like a good opportunity to minus the Nissa. We could also play the Sylvan Advocate if we wanted to, but there doesn't seem to be a huge incentive to do so, because that could mean our opponent could use a removal spell on this Den Protector. So I think we can attack now for 2 with a Thopter. So let's do that. And we'll see what our opponent's got going on. Haven of the Spirit Dragon was revealed, so we're just going to mill it. Our opponent's also all the way down to 12, so we can actually just pressure, start getting in pressure with our own creatures as we're doing right now with this Thopter. Getting the Hangerback Walker back is probably what we're going to want to do, because Hangerback Walker plus Evolutionary Leap is a pretty sick combination. At this point, if the Nissa does die, it's not really that big of a deal. So let's see if our opponent decides to attack. The answer is no. So we're just going to go ahead and get back a Hangerback Walker. And we could Evolutionary Leap here, but it doesn't really seem necessary. So we're just going to probably want to attack with Den Protector and Thopter Token this turn. And just start getting that pressure going. Looks like our opponent's just not going to block whatsoever. So our opponent could have another Ojutai's Command with 2 cards in hand, which is an argument for not playing Hangerback. I think we may just want to play the Sylvan Advocate instead. And then it looks like it resolved, so we've got enough pressure on board where we can just pass the turn. And we're always going to mill that land that's revealed with the Sin Prodder, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a concession here from our opponent depending on what they've got left in hand. So, yep, that's going to be the match.